So I wanted to give you a better understanding of distances in space, and to do that we need to look at some reference points. First, we're going to start with our planets, the first one being Pluto. And I'm using a small pinhead to represent Pluto here. And you can see its size is 2,300 kilometers. Next is Neptune. Neptune is represented by a small pearl earring, roughly 49,300 kilometers. Stay put here. Uranus is just a bit larger than Neptune at 51,800 kilometers. So we're using the same reference point for us. Saturn is represented by a marble, and it is nearly twice the size of Uranus at 120,800 kilometers. I'm looking for and cannot find Jupiter. So we're just going to steal the marble from Saturn here. It's roughly the same size, about 20,000 kilometers larger at 142,000. Next we have Mars, and Mars is going to be represented by the small pin here. Even though the pinheads are the same size in Pluto and Mars, Mars is more than double the size of Pluto at 68,000. The Earth is roughly, oh, there's Jupiter's marble. The Earth, here we go. The Earth is much bigger than Mars, not quite double, but pretty close at 12,800 kilometers. And then we have Venus, which obviously does not want to stay put. Here we go. Venus is a little bit smaller than the Earth at 12,100 kilometers. I don't think I'm going to have any luck there with that one. And last, the closest to the Sun is Mercury. Mercury is a little bit smaller than Mars at 4,880 kilometers. I don't know as if I'm going to get Venus to stay put here. So, I have a solution to that problem. Tape. To get these taped down here. Definitely a work in progress here for me. We're going to get this here in just a second. Love masking tape. There we go. Now, I think I have everything set here. What I want to show you is how these are all related to the Sun, and I want to show you a size comparison that you can actually see. So here we have the Sun. That is a dodgeball, and that is roughly the size in comparison to the Sun, or excuse me, in comparison to the planets that we just saw. We're going to use that same scale to make the solar system. Our first planet is Mercury. It's roughly 12 steps away from the Sun, or 58,000 kilometers to scale. It doesn't seem like a lot when you put it in perspective. So here is that size, that small pin, and that is Mercury. The next planet is Venus, which is only 10 small steps from Mercury and 108 million kilometers from the Sun. Not very far. And again, as a reference point, here is our larger pinhead, a little bit bigger than Mercury. From there, we go to Earth. Earth is only 8 small steps from Venus, and it's 150 million kilometers from the Sun. And again, it's that same small pinhead. Mars is still pretty close. It's 16 small steps from Earth, and it's 228 million kilometers from the Sun. Again, it's that same small pinhead that we use for Mercury, and you can see that scale. After Mars, the distance between the planets really starts to grow. In this case, we have 110 small steps from Mars to Jupiter. Remember, it was 46 steps just from the sun to Mars itself. This nearly doubles, if it actually does double the distance from Mars to Jupiter than we had when we did the sun to Mars. So it's quite a ways difference. This one is 778 million kilometers for the sun, from the sun, and it's actually 5.2 astronomical units. You can see how far away we are from the sun there. And remember, to scale, this is actually a marble. Now, we have a ways to go with this one. Saturn, 130 small steps from Jupiter, 280 steps from the sun itself. This is 1,430,000,000 kilometers from the sun, or 9.54 astronomical units. And you can see, as I keep walking here, that this is quite a distance away. Again, the gap between Jupiter and Saturn is bigger than the gap between the sun and Mars. Much bigger, actually. So there's our scale. So far away you could probably barely even see the sun. Uranus, 288 small steps from Saturn, 574 from the sun. The distance between Saturn and Uranus is actually double the distance between Jupiter and Saturn. So it is a huge jump in the distances between the planets. And this one specifically is 2,870,000 kilometers from the sun, or 19.2 astronomical units. That 288 is how many steps that I took between the two of them. And you can definitely see just from the time that it's taking that, yeah, it's definitely a much further distance than the ones that we've been doing so far. At this point, I was trying very hard not to lose count. Almost there. There you have it. That is the distance from the sun to Uranus, and that's the scale. 288 was a lot, but in between Uranus and Neptune, it's 326 small steps. That's 900 from the sun. It is 4,500,000,000 kilometers from the sun, or 30.1 astronomical units. At this point, it'd be interesting to see what it would be like to see the sun from that far away. I can't imagine that it would be very bright in the sky, probably less bright than stuff like the moon, but I've never been there, so I don't exactly know. And think about this, as far away as we are at this point in our distance from the sun, imagine the temperatures that these planets have to endure out here this far away. We're still quite a ways from the end. Remember, this is 326 small steps. It was very difficult to try to remember how many. Getting close. Getting closer. There you have it. That is the distance from Neptune to the sun. And in perspective, there's that earring that's about that size and scale. And for those of you who still think that Pluto's a planet, we'll include that in this. From Neptune to Pluto, we have 280 small steps, so not as far as the distance between Uranus and Neptune, but still quite a bit. Larger again than the distance from the sun all the way to Mars for sure, and I think even to Jupiter. This one is 5,900,000,000 kilometers from the sun, or 39.4 astronomical units. So it is a little distance, I guess you could say, to say the least, from there. So at this point, in between the sun that I put down, that was roughly the size of a dodgeball, and Pluto, where we're going to end, in real scale, in real measurements that we use, this is roughly half a mile, maybe a little bit more than a half a mile. So if you have a dodgeball sized sun, it takes a half a mile of space to get to Pluto from there. And there you can see the pin to scale. And let's rewind all the way back from Pluto to the sun. Remember, this is roughly a half a mile, probably closer to 3/4 of a mile distance between Pluto and the sun.